Always a pleasure speaking to you. And of course, like you were saying, that Anis obviously has not been part of things because she doesn't want to in any way take the limelight away from Jawad,
The poster boy.
the poster boy. Oh, look, for Mr. Panchu, you'll always be boy. So don't try to get out of that.
Well, he's not that older, that
I know,
much older
I
than
know,
me.
I know.
It's
For
just,
some reason, I don't know why, I always think of him as Mr. Panchu. Everyone else, look, I call Ken, Bernie, Bernie. But for Mr. Panchu, it's like that. I don't know why that he gives that thing of an
no, that's
elderly.
the aura and the gravitas that he carries with him wherever he goes. So that kind of gives you. And even though I'm 60, I still, people still don't treat me like a 60-year-old.
No, but I think that's a nice thing, at least in relation to a mediator. You're not bringing in that part. But that's why I keep saying that Mr. Panchu and I make a dream team,
Yeah.
because he brings that, and I definitely can't bring that. I know that, and I never want to bring that. So I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good combination to have. But let me also put this up in your that ambassadors of mediation group. So because
Mhm.
definitely,
I guess
Jawad,
it's a little too early for people to join.
no, I like to put it up there because
13th day, though it's Friday.
yeah, just put it up. I have to say Jawad is live. No one was interested to look at me, but Jawad, yes. So, but anyway, Jawad, you have to, of course, tell us about yourself. You can do that, and then you have to give me that 2 minutes to talk about little bit about what I'm doing and where people can find information. And then after that, it is totally neutrality and mediation, which I know you'll give us different, I know, interesting perspectives. So please, Jawad.
Yeah, about myself, what can I say, Vikram? I've been a mediator. I've been a lawyer for about 35 years now. And I came into mediation about 15 years back. And for the past 10 years, I stopped being a lawyer and started being a mediator. So I do mostly mediations. I do arbitrations to survive, of course, because sometimes, you know how mediation is in India today. So it's still we have to reach a stage where mediation can be something that will give you your livelihood. So I work as a trainer, of course. You have a difference of opinion on that as to whether anybody can be really trained in mediation. Uh, we have agreed to disagree on that aspect, I suppose. So we'll keep that there. So let's not get into that now. The topic is different. And perhaps I'll try to through this I'll try to convince you that perhaps training may be necessary, at least to understand these concepts like neutrality, etc. So that's about me. I have written a few articles. I have conducted a number of training programs. I work as a mediator uh, for the Tamil Nadu Mediation Conciliation Center. That is the Court Annex Center that's there in our High Court. And I also do private mediations. And I get appointed as an arbitrator in a few matters. I do arbitrations. And I like to think of myself more as, what can I say, a person who likes to think a lot.
That's good.
I don't know whether that's a drawback or whether it's something good. But I find myself thinking about a whole lot of things. So when you told me about this mediation, neutrality in mediation, I was just thinking, what exactly is neutrality? But we'll come to that later. Before that, let's talk about what you are doing.
Yeah,
I think it's as I have said earlier, this is really incredible. This is something that I really cannot do, because the amount of patience and the amount of commitment that you have is something really really amazing. And the topics that you have chosen so far, philosophy and mediation, neutrality and mediation, all these things, really are those topics that we need to think about, we need to discuss a lot about, and we need to also understand how these are important concepts that actually help us to increase, or perhaps help us to, increase our understanding of what mediation is all about. Because there is a tendency to treat mediation as a rather a kind of an ad hoc process of where you just sit with people and just talk to them and tell them, hey, what's your problem? Why don't you consider this solution? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? So there's a lot of confusion about that, and people still feel that what is it that that a mediator does, which I can't do. So I had this very interesting experience once when I was conducting a training program. There was a lawyer who had almost 40 years of practice, and he stood up and asked me on the very first day, before I could open my mouth, he called me Tambi. Tambi means younger brother. That Tambi was like, I'm here and you're here. So that was the kind of Tambi. So, he was asserting his age, his experience and all that. And he said that I have settled I have settled thousands of cases in my career in 40 years. And what is it that you're going to teach me here? So I told him that, sir, I really respect your experience and I salute it. But here's what we do. I'm not going to answer your question now. But I would like to ask you this question at the end of the session, and then I would at the end of the training, and I would like you to answer me that question. And he comes back to me on the third day and says that this time the Tambi was, more respectful. Tambi, there is a whole lot of difference between what I did and what you're teaching here. So I now understand that what I really did was I was forcing people into accepting things that they may not have been happy about. I did not bother to think what is really good for them. And it was always my decision, like what is good according to me is what I used to impose on people. And because of my experience, because of my age, people used to accept it. And I said, exactly, sir, that is the whole problem. And that's how our panchayat systems also work. So I feel that what you're doing now is very, very important. And I hope that, and I really wish to see your videos becoming popular everywhere. And I try my best to share them as far as possible. And it's important that non-mediators also have a look at this, especially the stakeholders, lawyers, judges, people who, because you have brought in an amazing spectrum of a galaxy of people, from different jurisdictions, from different countries, from different cultures, which is really amazing and which is really incredible according to me, because I have not seen anybody doing this kind of work so far. And you do it in your own subtle way, in your own quiet way, without making too much of hullabaloo. Whereas there are people who go around claiming that they are the poster boys of mediation.
Some don't claim, some have actually designated that. So I think what you said is something which obviously sounds nice to hear. I mean, because I sometimes also don't realize what I do, because I first of all just keep doing them. So I don't even know who's watching. Are people watching? I just have to put it out there, because I just feel that today, tomorrow, whenever, I mean, it's out on YouTube, watch it whenever you can. But I just feel people like you need to be out there, and people have to listen to you. And that's why, look, everything is free.
I have a small suggestion, Vikram, because you have brought in so many people. I mean, Ken Cloke and all are legends in their field, okay? And the incredible array of people who have spoken on your programs is really amazing. But I have a small suggestion, if you can think about it. I don't know how you're going to do it, but perhaps take small clippings of what they have said in their talks, what is very crucial and what is very important, which people really need to know about. So just give it context and come out, because people don't have patience today.
Jawad, you've said this. Now, only problem is I will ask you to help me on this. It's very simple. Whenever you watch a video, just tell me from this time to this time is very important. I'll do the rest. I'll take the clip out. My problem is, for me to go back and watch anything, I'll have to skip doing it. So it's very simple. Anyone, just give me that time thing. From 2 minutes, 30 seconds to 4 minutes, 40 seconds, take that clip out. I'll take that clip out and I'll put it.
Okay.
So easy to do, and perfectly what you're saying is actually what I have to do, I want to do. Well, I'm telling you, this is my constraint, because I don't want to stop putting content out there, because actually people spend a lot of time on editing videos and all that. It takes a lot of time. I did not want to do that. I said, let everything go live whenever I can, because that'll be another exercise by itself.
Yes.
And so perfectly right. We have to do it. and I'm putting it out.
People see more than YouTube. I feel that the young people today are more on Instagram and other apps like this. So short clippings of 2 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now
I
you
see
understood.
there's this amazing thing on Instagram now. Nas Daily. There's a Palestinian guy who just comes up with 1 minute videos, and it's so popular today. So
That's
that
really
is
good
something
fun.
that you can think about.
No, absolutely. No, it's something that I told you, I really want to do. It's just that you people have to help me on this. And simple. I'm telling you, if everyone who watches
Yeah,
actually does that for me,
yeah,
it'll be so simple. I'll keep getting messages. Okay, I'll put it out immediately because
yeah,
it's not difficult for me to do it. It's just that to watch it again,
yeah.
and these are long videos. To
Yes,
watch them again and find out the actual point where I need to put it out, it will
yes.
take time. So I think it's perfectly all right. But but what I want to do, of
Uh,
course, what you said, everything is important, and I want to discuss it because I think it's something that I have my kind of, let's not say solutions, but thoughts on what you said. So I'll take it there. So this is what we are doing here.
no.
Symposium on neutrality and mediation, and of course, Jawad and Bernie. That session, I don't know whether you got to see it. I mean, he's written a lot on neutrality, and his latest book, Neutrality Trap,
Yeah, yeah.
the whole thing of social change and where mediators fit in.
But I'm going to be referring to one of his what he has said in one of his books. So
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then, of course, Ken Cloke today, later in the day, please, Jawad. Only thing is, look,
that is one reason I really feel intimidated coming to your shows. You have such great people over here. What are you doing with kids like me in this? We are bachas, when it
you
comes
don't
to.
realize, Jawad, that all that experience of yours, and look, these are people who will actually take, even if you give them criticism of what they say, they'll take it. They're not the sort that, okay, like you said, I am up here, you're down there, and what I'm saying is gospel truth, take it. Ken wants that. He wants people to actually interact. The only problem that I face, and I was telling Michelle yesterday, that the problem is that whenever you tell people to ask something, I'm saying they're disrespecting Ken by giving him a 5-minute introduction to what they're going to ask him. I keep saying, give him a one word. He has so much experience. He'll understand what you're saying and tell you. And 5 minutes of Ken's time is very valuable. The fact that he gives us so much time is really nice of him because people are charging so much money to have Ken in small groups.
Correct.
And here he's out there. Everyone benefits from what he does. So that's my bit of a thing. Interaction is really, I think it's important because what if you pick up from what he writes, and then he further, when he writes, he can take from there, because everyone evolves. Like I keep saying, evolution of a mediator, everyone evolves, and they'll take that. So I think that's something. But what I want to do again is just put out the website thing. I keep saying that because my problem is that because there's so much content out there,
Yeah.
for you, like you go to the YouTube channel, I think a person will get intimidated. 400, more than 475 videos out there. What am I supposed to watch? So on my website, I've tried to kind of put down the various events, and I have the schedule. You can go to the schedule, see the topic. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing. So this was the last symposium. Obviously, you were part of that. And then social media connections and WhatsApp, all that is there. Physical location with Jawad. Of course, when he comes to Delhi, I might not call you here, but maybe to the golf course. So like you were just saying. And of course, look, World Mediation Circle, India Mediation Circle, we have to talk about this. And I told you, you have to work with me on this.
Yes.
And of course, everything goes out free. And that's the way I want it. I want people
Yeah.
to benefit from any corner. I don't want to start charging people to attend something. So I said either support, that is the PayPal thing. The other thing now, the concept of a patron, because in the mediation circles, people have to, first step is become a patron, and then we'll move into, because I'm selective about who comes in there. So
Okay.
we'll have a meeting and then we'll see whether the person becomes part of the circle. But you can become a patron otherwise, because your people are benefiting from the videos, like you said. So they can always do that. And of course, we have the shows and events. So I've tried to put the schedule of the events here.
Yeah.
Of course, this is the way you can keep in touch, because social media will not show you all the posts and everything. That's one way of doing it. And podcast part of it is something that I have to work on, because Again, I
Mhm.
can put everything on a podcast,
Yeah.
everything I can put there. So we have to see whether those long videos people will be able to listen to on podcasts because they're 1 hour. So what the clips that you're talking about, I think we can put those clips. Maybe you can do that. And then, of course, I've had a lot of discussion on ombuds. We have to discuss that how I'm looking at it in the various in organization thing. So basically, people can have a look at it. This is where you click on the schedule. So all the topics come in there. So otherwise, of course, like Ken Cloke's thing, I keep saying that at least watch all of them because this opportunity you're not going to get otherwise. People are
Yes.
going to charge you hundreds of dollars to attend his sessions. So at
Yeah.
least these you can watch and of course, so let's all the shows and all details are there. And I think that's about it. But the things that you said, I mean, I just want to take it up that the fact that there is in terms of mediation itself, how it's perceived, which you said that someone is doing this and for sure he's been telling them what to do. And you know that after one of the sessions, I showed you a clip of someone who's a trained mediator in the Supreme Court and what he says the mediator will decide. So what's happening in those spaces that we don't know. And that is when you say rightly that there are certain things that have to be told to them what mediation is and not them. I think ultimately,
I'll just, if you don't mind, I'll just give you one more example that I came across. I won't give you too many details because that will be, I don't want to do that on this open platform. I have shared it on the ambassadors group also. The High Court, one of the High Courts has appointed one of its retired judges as a mediator. Okay. And one of the parties to that, because they were referred to me to find out whether this mediation is going on the right track because they were confused because they had an idea of mediation and what was happening there was completely different. And I was surprised to see the minutes of those meetings, and I was surprised to see what was actually happening over there because this mediator was virtually treating it like an adjudicatory process where he has directed parties to file their pleadings. He has directed them to file their documents. He has directed them to file bring their evidence on record. And all this over 12 hearings where he has charged them almost 36 lakhs, which I think 3.6 million
no,
in terms
no,
of
it'll be
rupees.
about, let's look at
36,
about
yeah,
50,000,
350,000.
about $50,000.
Yeah, $50,000, roughly $50,000 for 12 sessions, where only this filing of documents and blah, blah, blah has taken place, where nothing has been done. And parties are, the other party is talking about, we are going to be advancing our arguments in the next thing. I mean, this is where, the training component becomes crucial, Vikram, because when you have absolutely no idea, you come as a judge, you're sitting over there, you have that authority, you're telling people what exactly is wrong with them and what they should be doing. To change that and to come into this is extremely difficult. But judges think that because they are, they know everything. I mean, I'm not against retired judges coming into mediation, not at all. Okay, all I'm saying is get trained, understand what the process is, and then come and do justice to the process.
So what I thought was, because obviously this will continue and that whole brotherhood will keep doing this all the time. They'll keep picking up their people like the A word. You use the A word and I called it the A word, the arbitration. It is the A word for me. So that part of it, and it's going to go in that direction. But only thing is, we had a little discussion with Mr. Panchu also in the World Mediators Conference. But I don't want to get into that because I really feel that's the world that I don't not part of, and I will stay away because I'm not going to bang my head against a brick wall.
Good for
But
you.
no, yeah, no, but this India Mediation Circle or the World Mediation Circle, the idea is let's go to the user. If the user knows what the process is, then from their end they are going to say, "What are you doing? This is not what we came in here for." So I
Right.
just tell people very simple. I just tell them, give them the Singapore Convention definition. I say,
Yeah.
just look at this and nothing more is required. Don't fall for people giving you these models and the words, even conciliation, mediation.
Yeah.
Don't get into all that. It's
Yeah.
very simple. The person is assisting you and lacks the authority to impose a solution upon you. That's
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Nothing else we need to tell them because I'm telling you, people are confusing people so much and the user is not interested. Are you doing transformative? Are you doing narrative? That's the process. Let it go where it goes. We don't need words to tell you what we are going to be doing. So I think we need to finally is going to be the user, and that's where I'm hitting. I'm saying let's go down to the grassroots and let's get to the user and let's understand what the user needs and who those people are. It's not about anyone. So my concept, I kept telling you, it's not about training as we understand it. Don't tell people we'll make you a mediator.
Yeah.
Tell them about what mediation is. Everything is nice, and the person might not have the mediator mindset, but might benefit from what you tell them. So that's perfectly all right. But when they say I'll make you a mediator, I feel, look, it's disrespecting mediators. Jawad, what he's gone through in all this, not just in your profession. We've had a conversation with Beautiful Mind. I mean, I tell people watch it. It was really nice, Anis and Jawad. But all that you are, to say that I'll make you that in 40 hours, I mean, please don't do
Impossible.
this. Yeah.
Impossible.
So I have a problem with that part of it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
everything else, why not? Tell them about conflict management, conflict coaching, everything. That's perfectly all right. That's why I say the people with the mediator mindset will identify whatever skill development has to happen. Look, I put out these videos, they will benefit from this. Yesterday, there was, like Michelle we've done a lot of I mean, let's call it qualifications got. But finally, she said, what you put out there would have been, I mean, this is, of course, major study material for me.
Correct.
So that, let's put it out there. So that's something that we need to, I think, differentiate. What I say, I keep saying that what I'm doing, if I can identify those with the mediator mindset in every corner of the world, then those are available to you to take in any skill development program. So I'm feeding in thing. There was Ivana, that from International Mediation Institute, and I was talking to her. I was saying that, look, these people, if they are sitting in that what you call training, which I will say, whatever is the word you want to call it, when they're sitting there, you will enjoy talking to them. If these people have that mindset, they will benefit. I mean, simple things like you do an MBA, work experience. If you have and you go for an MBA, you relate to what's happening. You take in more. So people with the mediator mindset will take us so much more. And a person like Jawad has limited time. In that time, what can you do? 30 people. So if those 30 people are those who actually have that mindset, and they're out there in the world, when they go out, mediation will benefit, and user will benefit. So I'm saying that people misunderstand what I say. Maybe I can don't blame them, because I am a little maybe rude. Let's see, rude. I don't know. I'm not rude here, Jawad. I'm not rude. I am. Am I? I
No,
don't know.
no, you're not. It's not being rude. It's just being, uh, just accepting the reality.
Look, I call this the dispute resolution revolution, and I was some
No, I
meme.
was last week. I was in a conference in Bhopal, okay, and there a women's group, the Women's Chamber of Commerce, there has adopted a village and made it as a litigation-free village. Right now, that's the kind of grassroots work that we really need, and there's a lot of work being done by organizations like Agami in creating that awareness, and and they are not exactly going by the traditional concept of facilitative mediation or whatever terminology or labels that you may use. They are addressing the cultural ethos of the place and trying to use people there who understand that, who are there on the ground, and who understand the people there, who understand the culture there, in evolving their own processes. So, yeah, so that
no, that's what
yeah.
I'm saying. The mediation circles that I'm saying, that we don't even have to go out and tell them that, in a sense, teach. Well, I'm saying those people exist. I had a conversation with some teachers, which I keep putting out, because I do my test marketing. The teachers from West Champaran, Bihar, and we started talking about it. So someone had definitely come to them and spoken about mediation and connected it to the panchayat, and definitely what they took back was that someone is going to take a decision for us, panchayat ka faisla, and that kind of mindset. And dabang panchayat, they use that word, that actually thrash people to impose their solution on them. So then when I spoke to them what the process is,
Just
then
one minute,
yeah.
one sec. Yeah, sorry, Vikram. Please.
So when I spoke to them about the process and all, then the names that came out, they had those people there in that area. So those people, in terms of how they're doing it, they knew everything about mediation and about what Mediator does. And they were saying people actually go and sit when these people are doing the mediation, and people are learning from that. So the fact that what you are saying in terms of teaching people, or whatever training, whatever word you use, it's actually happening on the grassroots also. That people come and say, this is all happening in open spaces, because there's no concept there, that this confidentiality thing that we keep trying to push so much onto people, they don't need that, they don't want it. So what is the issue? So people are learning from that right at the grassroots level. So that wisdom, in some way, people are exposed to someone doing it, and that's what I want. That at the grassroots level, they will identify with the person. And as we go along in the session, we'll definitely talk about this, I think. So I know that what direction I'm taking is based on what I've spoken to about, but of course it's a work in progress. So we'll keep refining it, but we have to take it forward. So definitely we'll go to that. But neutrality and mediation, Jawad, your subject, I would say, definitely. So please, your show, I'm there. And like I keep saying, I'm not mute, but I'm a mute spectator. So I'm not going to mute myself, but I'm there. So please.
Okay, Vikram, on neutrality, unfortunately, I did not have the opportunity of watching listening to what the other speakers on this forum have said. But what I'm going to talk about here is basically my understanding of what neutrality is and how it works in mediation. So perhaps I may share with you a few of my own experiences where, as I was developing as a mediator or evolving as a mediator. Not that the evolution is still complete. I still have a long way to go. So I'm still learning and learning and learning, as Devanand said. See, I look at neutrality from three different perspectives. Okay. One is a very factual one, if you may call it that, as to whether I have any conflict of interest in the subject matter, like whatever I'm dealing with as a mediator. Am I connected to any of the parties? Have I got a stake in the outcome of the mediation? Am I in any way connected with the actual subject matter of the dispute? Now, this is something very factual, and that is something that we have to be very clear about, that we don't have that conflict of interest, and in that sense, a mediator is neutral. Okay. The second part of it is it's your state of mind. Okay. How neutral am I? Okay. Do I have any ideas on this subject matter of the dispute? Do I have any views? Do I have any beliefs? Do I have any biases that I'm starting off with? Perhaps thinking that, this is the right way of doing it, or looking at it, or this is the wrong way of doing it. So that is the second part of it. What is my state of mind, or even towards the parties? Okay. That is number two. Number three is, how am I showing my neutrality? Okay. How are the parties perceiving me as a neutral? Now, that I think the other word for that would be impartiality, because neutrality is basically a state of mind. It is something that exists, and impartiality is how I conduct myself in the mediation to show that I am neutral. So how do I treat the parties? How do I behave with them? How do I respond to them? How do I relate to them? All these things is the third facet of neutrality, according to me. But, what happens is, ultimately, mediators are humans. Now, as far as the first aspect of neutrality is concerned, the conflict of interest part of it. So do I have any connection with any of the parties? Do I have any stake in the outcome? Now, we had an interesting discussion with my guru, Rahim Shamji. And he pointed out on this aspect of neutrality that, let's say that, there is a matrimonial dispute. Okay. And the parties have a lot of respect for their priest or rabbi or whoever it might be. Okay. And they go to him and they say, please mediate this. Now, can we say that the rabbi is neutral in this? Does he not have any stake in the outcome? Now, what if the rabbi feels that this marriage needs to be saved, and therefore he, guides the parties towards in a direction where they feel compelled to reconcile, but they really don't want to. So, is there neutrality over there? Okay. And he is connected to both the parties because both belong to his parish or whatever you may call it, to his congregation, and he definitely has knows both of them. Perhaps knows their parents, perhaps knows their grandfathers, grandmothers. So there is a connection. What happens if parties go to a family elder for mediation? Okay, like I and my brother, supposing my brother and I have a dispute, and we have a very respected uncle, and we tell the uncle that, look, we have this problem, why don't you help us? Now, he certainly has a stake in the outcome, right? Because he wants us to reconcile, he wants us to, agree upon something that would be acceptable to both of us. Now, what happens to neutrality in these kind of situations, in this context? So whether that first neutrality that I spoke about, whether that really becomes applicable here or not. The second part of the neutrality is my state of mind. Okay. Now, in our Tamil Nadu Mediation Conciliation Center, sometimes when we do mediations, okay, we take the parties' consent to have interns to observe us, because interns who are interested in mediation, want to learn mediation, or who have, undergone some kind of training or whatever, and they want to understand how the mediation is. Of course, they are bound by confidentiality. We get that confirmation from them. And sometimes they sit and observe those mediations. And in one mediation that I was doing, it was a matrimonial mediation. And we finished the mediation, and I was having a private session with the wife. We finished that, and the wife walked out, and this intern looked at me and said, "Sir, how could you not just reach out and hug that poor thing? I mean, I was just dying to do that because she has suffered so much." Right? So, I mean, what happens to, then I asked myself the question, did I feel that way towards that lady? And I found out that yes, because she had been through a whole lot of stuff. Okay, and it was a case where, husband was very suspicious to the extent that he had installed CCTV cameras in the house, and all kinds of things had happened. And I mean, how do you respond to that? Okay, how do you really, what do you do in those circumstances? Okay, are you really neutral? Okay, are you not feeling more towards one party and less towards the other? Perhaps feeling more towards that party who you perceive as a victim, and not the other party who you perceive as the oppressor. So how do you respond to those situations? Do you stop the mediation? Do you tell the parties that, look, I'm not unbiased anymore, therefore you please go your way? Okay. So this becomes a very important question that we have to ask ourselves. And invariably, what I feel is, and at least what I've experienced is, in most mediations, there is always your personal belief that may come in at some point of time or the other. So how do you deal with that? That becomes a very important question, right? Are we really neutral in that stage? The third thing, how am I demonstrating my neutrality? Okay, how am I showing it to the parties? How am I showing them that, I am impartial? Now, this is where I just want to quote Bernard Mayers, which one of his, this is what he says. I think it is in his book, Beyond Neutrality, Confronting the Crisis in Conflict Resolution. I think it's in, this I came across this, it has been extracted in another essay that I was reading. He says this: whether there is such a thing as pure neutrality or not, we know, and our clients know, that when we commit to being neutral, we are committing to not intentionally promoting one party's interests at the expense of another. When we choose to play that role, we must truly honor it. And the fact that we have a choice and decision to make about whether to put ourselves forward as a third party neutral should only emphasize how important that commitment is. I think that is something really important here, right? Let us understand, we are basically humans. Mediators have not dropped from the sky. Okay, we have grown up in an environment We have been brainwashed and ingrained with certain beliefs and certain mindsets and certain biases, certain prejudices. Is there such a thing called neutrality at all? If you look at it from that perspective, can you really be neutral? And is there any kind of a oxymoron coming there when you say that you have to be empathetic at the same time you have to be neutral? Okay. So these are some of the very important questions. Okay. Believe me, I can only place my perspectives on this. And I would not claim them to be authoritative because you have had some really big thinkers like Bernard Mayer and Ken Cloke on your shows. And who is better equipped to talk about it than them? Okay, unfortunately, I have not yet watched those videos. I'm going to watch them because I was traveling for the past 10 days now. So I just didn't have the time to do that. But what I feel is, it's ultimately, there's one more thing that I just want to read out to you from what I read in another place. It says mediator neutrality is foundational this is 1 minute. This is from Nancy Rogers and Richard Salem, A Student's Guide to Mediation and the Law. So what it says is mediator neutrality is foundational to the mediation process. Other essential values such as confidentiality and party self-determination rest upon the party's perception of the mediator as an unaligned participant. Mediator neutrality legitimizes the mediation process because the parties, rather than the mediator, are in control of the decision making. I feel this is very important because what I feel is the core value or the core ethical aspect of mediation is self-determination. Are they in control of the decision-making process? Now, if you go back to what I said about, what happens if a rabbi or a priest or somebody who's an elder is taking part in who is acting as the mediator, is he really neutral? Now, this question can only be answered, in this way, that is he influencing the decision of the parties? Is he telling the parties what to do? As long as the parties are going to determine that this is how we want to resolve this, and this is our decision, as long as that self-determination is there, I think that aspect of neutrality gets covered. So this statement that mediator neutrality legitimizes the mediation process because the parties, rather than the mediator, are in control of decision making. To encourage parties to share information freely and candidly with the mediator promises not to take sides with the other party or use the information to advance the opponent's interests. Mediator neutrality makes it possible for parties to discuss issues of their choosing, negotiate with opponents, and design their own agreements. Moreover, the party's expectation of mediator neutrality is the basis upon which a relationship of trust is built. So trust is very crucial. So, we come across terms like omnipartiality. Okay, now if I'm supposed to be empathetic towards both parties, if I'm supposed to be impartial towards both parties, can I be empathetic and impartial at the same time? Or am I partial to both of them? So omnipartiality is something where I'm partial to party A, I'm partial to party B. And what is more important is, do they trust me? And how do I get the trust? So trust is attained and maintained when the mediator is perceived by the disputants as an individual who understands and cares about the parties in the disputes, has the skills to guide them to a negotiated settlement, treats them impartially, is honest, will protect each party from being hurt during mediation by the other's aggressiveness or their own perceived inadequacies, and has no interest that conflict with helping to bring about a resolution which is in the party's best interest. Only when trust has been established can the parties be expected to be candid with the mediator, disclose their real interests, and value the mediator's reactions. So, one of my other teachers in ADR ODR International, Zoe Giannopolo, she says that it is audacious on the part of the mediator to sit in a private session with the party and expect them to disclose something which is so confidential for them, so important for them. This is where trust comes. And how will the trust come unless I show them that I care for them? Okay, unless I show them that I am really concerned with their welfare and I really want to help them to move forward in their conflict. So how do I do that? Now that becomes, I think, the core aspect of how all these three facets of neutrality are shown or demonstrated in a mediation or maintained in a mediation. So the basic objective is, as long as the parties feel that they can trust me, and that is where, my knowledge of the process or my expertise of the process and my communication skills and how I'm able to empathize with them, how I'm able to listen to them actively and without, being judgmental about it, how I'm able to keep my biases and prejudices aside. Okay. Acknowledge the fact that I may be biased in this, but I'm not going to let that affect this. And I'm going to treat these parties equally. Okay. How do I demonstrate that? How do I show them that respect? Okay. Because when you're being judgmental, you're not respecting the other side. Okay. When you're listening to somebody and forming an opinion that this person is right or wrong, you're not respecting them. You're taking that that right away from them, that they have a right to their own opinions. So I guess neutrality is something which is much more nuanced than being able to be fit into some kind of a definition or some kind of a bracket and say that, oh, this is neutrality. I don't think you can do that.
No, my only thing, Jawad, is that there's so many things that I definitely have wanted to come into. I don't want to, so I didn't want to. But whenever you want me to, please, because there'll be so many points now. Will I remember all of them? Now, that's my only limitation.
Vikram, see, I want this to be a conversation. Okay, I don't want to be a kind of a sermon, or I'm not trying to preach anything here. So, see, you have the experience, you have the the knowledge, and you have had the honor and privilege and opportunity of interacting with so many great minds. So, in fact, anything from you would be a learning for me. So,
please don't
I
say
just
that.
want to understand that. Yeah, am I right? I don't know.
So that's look. This is the other thing that I've been wanting to tell you. That the thing is, of course, you read whatever everyone writes, but at this point of time, I think Jawad has to start writing, and people have to read now. So picking up from whatever. But sometimes what happens is that even those authors have evolved. And whether what he wrote in Beyond Neutrality is, which I keep talking to him about, that the fact that at one point of time you thought this, do you actually think it now? Because that's one limitation of books that I always have. I keep saying, look, I don't read them. That's one limitation I find of books, because the author might have changed their mind, but you pick up something at some point of their life they thought, and that is something you take as, because Ken Cloke is writing this, so let me take this up. But actually, he might have gone beyond that now. So
he might have gone beyond.
Yeah. Yes. So I think, but what I want to really, I think, of course, I have the other things that I will say, but I think its starting point is one: where is this mediation happening? On what did it come from? One is what you do in the court system, where a mediator is given to you. That's one kind of mediation which is taking place. On the other extreme, are, say, at a village level, there is a person, or you're saying maybe a priest or a rabbi or whatever, at that level, that they automatically in that social structure go to these people. So these are extremes, maybe what we have. So in one thing, like you were saying, developing a trust, and on the other end, the trust is already there in the individual. Now, the process part of it is something which they have over time experienced. Other people have gone through it, so they know what they're getting into. And whether the interest of that mediator in relation to keeping that social structure in a certain peaceful situation, so do they have that kind of an interest in the matter? Definitely should also. I mean, I'm saying social pressure is a good thing, right? It's not a bad thing to be able to reach a certain settlement, let's call it settlement, reach a settlement because of social pressure. There's nothing wrong with that, because finally you are also benefiting from that, so you also have an interest in a peaceful situation. So I think the fact is that to establish trust, that's one, because of certain states, places where mediation is happening. But I think that's why I think perception of mediation itself, and how do even the mediators look at mediation? I think that is also what we need to discuss, because
Yes.
mediators themselves have different thoughts on mediation. One, I showed you that clip, mediator will decide, that person exists. And on the other end, one person is, I am do nothing, I just sit there and let them have conversations. So again, there are extremes there. So I think first, the larger picture of mediation itself, how anyone understands it, and from in that situation where neutrality fits in. Because look, common thing that comes out in all these discussions has been trust. Definitely that has come out. The other thing is that, do you need to establish it by words, or just your presence establishes it? That part of it, by with my heart soul spirituality discussion which I keep having, what you bring in as your energy that you bring in, your presence that you bring in, by itself, does it establish trust? The just the connection to the heart and soul which you do in other ways, everything is not to be done in words, but there is what I say, the energy in the room or whatever. So those are things also we have to, because the words might not be there, authors also might not have words for these things, so maybe these things are not discussed. But I think we need to take, because I feel that mediation itself has not taken off, maybe because people have created this very theoretical thing around something which is actually a person to person connection. And
Exactly.
those connections, to even put words to those connections, people don't have. And what goes out is something. So yeah.
No, no, what you said just now is very important. Okay, because see, when you talk of trust, Vikram, okay, how far am I willing to trust you as my mediator? Okay, I see. It's one matter to have an elder or a priest or somebody who is mediating, or a community elder. Maybe I know him, I trust him. Okay, because I trust his wisdom, right? But if I'm before a mediator whom I don't know at all, like for example, if it's a commercial mediation or even a family mediation or even a court-referred mediation, whatever it might be, I don't know who the mediator is. Now, how do I trust that person? So that trust has to be built in the course of the process, correct? So it's not emotional trust. It's not the trust that I might have in Vikram as a friend, because I know Vikram. Okay, I trust Vikram as my friend, and I know that Vikram will do what is best for me, and he will, guide me in a way that would be in my best interest. I know that, so I trust him. That's an emotional trust. Now, if I don't know Vikram at all and I'm sitting before him, now unless and until Vikram does something that shows me that he knows what he's doing, and I can trust him as somebody who knows about what he has to do, that is strategic trust, right? Strategic trust is how I trust my doctor. Strategic trust is how I trust my lawyer, right? It's because I know that you know what you're doing. You know the subject matter. You know how to go about it, and I know that you're qualified for it. And again, that trust has to be sustained throughout the process. And if I do anything or say anything that might be perceived by you as not helping you in the
No, I have been wanting to comment, but I've been smiling on this also, because you said build the trust during the process. You find it really interesting. Trust has been built when the settlement has happened, because I tell you the challenge is people don't even know what this process is about, and definitely during the process, because the person is interacting with both sides and they don't, of course, know what is it that happening on the other side. They don't know when you have those conversations, so they don't really know which side you are, this aspect of which side concept. But when they actually reach that point and they realize, okay, you were really actually being, okay, let's not say fair, impartial, let's not use the word, you were in a position where you actually understood where you were going, because like you said, you have that experience and this is what you do, and you took it in the right direction. They realize it later, because I feel one challenge is because the process itself has not been something which people have even, if I mean, they might not even have heard about it, that someone went through mediation. So the word of mouth on the process has not happened. And for them, I think that is where the chicken and the egg situation lies.
yes,
That once people have experienced the process with an individual,
yeah,
with like Greg Rooney's session, you watched that. He's saying the mediator is mediation. So they come to me as Greg, and this is what they, I mean, however they expect what they expect. Is it word of mouth or is it trust, as it is, whatever it might be, but it is the individual. So I feel that if, as we go along and people actually experience the process in the way I want them to experience it, one is, like I told you, sitting in a room and someone saying, I will decide for you because the Supreme Court has said that you go to this mediator, and they don't know what it's all about. Oh, Supreme Court judge has sent it, so if this guy is saying I will decide for you, maybe that's what the process is. Because look, the user part of it we are not even getting into. The user, what they are taking back from this, what did they understand, what they were getting into at the first place. So I think that is user I think education, let's call it education. Let's call it training now, Jawad. The user training is not happening. It's all the mediator training which is happening. So I think users need to know what they're getting into. And I'm saying I'll keep going back to this, because once the process has been done, now they know, Jawad, for this family or for this business, went through this mediation and they've come out happy, and they are talking about the process. That's when the trust in the process happens. That's the trust in Jawad happens, and this will benefit other mediators. I put out one. I just look. There was one very complex matter that I did, and Mr. Panchu was, of course, a co-mediator in that, and I put that out. I actually recorded the experience of one of the side. The other one, I mean, this was the company, the one company, and the other one, I have not put it. I want to put that also, but I say this is good enough. He spoke about every aspect of it. So, and became an evangelist. He says, I become an evangelist for mediation by experiencing it, because at the end of it, what happened? He himself says, look, I hear up till the end, I did not know what was really going on in terms of what that settlement looks like to me. What would look to me and what he understood were not the same. So he understood that this is something that he's doing, and he was trustworthy, maybe, out in the process, whatever came out of it, but it came out at the end of it. So I'm saying that let's let people experience it and talk about it, but in the way I want them to experience it. That's the point. And so that's why I'm trying to put it out in that manner, to the people with the mediator mindset, finding those people who will give that experience, and then let them experience it. Because for me, I'm telling you, it's the concept of building trust. I think, I mean, is it really, how does it happen? I mean, we don't have words for it. I think that's where the problem lies. And if Jawad is sitting as a trainer, how do you train someone that you build trust? I don't think it can be. It's something which is a personal thing, where it will
No,
come.
there I think we have agreed to disagree, Vikram. So because because what I feel is, see, I'm fully with you when you say that 40 hours mediation training is the not sufficient to qualify somebody as a mediator. I fully agree with that. Okay, that is why most of my training programs, or all my training programs, I tell people that this is just equipping you to start that journey of becoming a mediator. Okay, so the fundamental basic principles and all those concepts of what are good communication skills, how do you facilitate a negotiation, how do you remain in neutral, being conscious of your own biases and prejudices. These are all thoughts that have been put in your mind now. Okay, and you have been given some practical experience in trying to work that out. So perhaps doing 9 role plays or 10 role plays is not going to really teach you that. On how, supposing you want to do a reality check with the party. Are you going to tell the party that I think you're wrong and this is what the court is going to decide? Or are you going to tell the party that, or ask the party, how do you think the court is going to look at it? So there is a difference between these two things. So what I feel is mediation training helps people to understand the difference. Okay, and puts them on that journey, because it's up to them after that, how they develop themselves, what do they understand, how much reading they do, how much of listening to mediator Vikram's shows do they do. So if you want to evolve as a mediator, you have to do that, right? It's a never ending process of learning, and after 15 years I feel I'm still on that journey. Okay, though I conduct trainings, I do this, I do that, but I always tell people that don't take my word as the absolute word. As you rightly said, if Cloke can still be evolving, where is Jawad? Where is Vikram? I mean, we are all still, in those stages where we are still trying to understand many of these concepts, many of these principles. So how I look at it, my simple approach is this, that as long as I am not telling the parties what to do in the mediation, And as long as I'm helping them to understand what is important for them and allowing them to come to that conclusion as to this is how we want to resolve our conflict, I feel that, I have done my job as a mediator. As long as it is their agreement. Okay, it's not mine. I have not told them that this is what you should be doing. But in that process, am I going to have a totally hands-off approach and say, as you said, that one mediator felt that he just has to sit there and do nothing? Okay, each mediator has his own style, and the very presence of the mediator may, have that effect on the parties where they start thinking from different points of view. See, I always tell the story of the 6 blind men of Hindustan. Okay, the blind men wanted to see an elephant, and they were taken to the elephant. One touches the tusk and says that elephant is a spear. One touches the trunk and says the elephant is a serpent. One touches the tail. It goes on. Now, that is how parties in conflict look at the conflict, because they see only one perspective, which is their own perspective. Now, does a mediator really have to have that kind of hands-off approach and allow them to continue with their perspectives? What is it that you're doing over there? What is your role? Now, this is where there becomes time. There comes a time when you need to question these perceptions of the parties. But how do you do that? How do you do that? I mean, are you going to tell them that, look, you're wrong? This is not the way you should be looking at it. Or are you going to ask them, is there another way of looking at this? Now, what I'm doing in the process is I'm helping them to think. Okay, if I'm helping them to think, if I'm helping them to understand whether their perception of this whole thing is the only way of looking at it, or are there different ways of looking at it? Okay, now that is where I become a sort of a catalyst in moving them forward. Okay, so that I suppose is the role of the mediator, not to tell the parties that this is what it is.
No, that's why I was
see different facets of the conflict.
No, this blind man and the elephant thing, I've been in this symposium also. This is where I started when I was telling you how do people, the mediators themselves, look at mediation, and of course stage 2, how do the users look at it? Because of course the other thing, we don't use the A word, we don't use the parties word, we are going participants, because we want to, it's a different process. It's not coming out of the court system. It has come out of the court system, but these words, so we won't do that. But from all of them, how do they look at this as mediation itself? One is their own experience, one is someone else's experience, what goes on. And I've been telling you, or saying, I told you also, some feedback has to be taken from people who are users in the court system. And I don't know, I'm sure there are some people must be doing it, but the right questions to be asked. So that I think we should come, what they have taken back from it, I think is really important, because I just feel that maybe what we keep saying and what's happening there is different. And when you say, look, again, I'll say that it's not about making mediators, but you're saying that they should be told about it, whatever training. And you spoke about interns and all that. And I keep telling these young people, go out. You think you have a mediator mindset? Go out. Tell your family, your communities, wherever, that this is a process, try it. And this whole combination that, okay, if they can develop some trust in you, or they have that trust in you, and the other is in the process, you have the availability of senior mediators. So they have Jawad, but let them sit as their mediation. So they are coming to you. I've been saying the model that I've created, which I'm creating, is just exactly the concept of a senior lawyer being briefed by the junior counsels, but it is still the junior counsels matter. So it is them, let them take that to you instead of being shadowing you. Yeah. Because finally it is, they have to come out of themselves. You can't duplicate yourself, and should not duplicate yourself, because there is so many facets of you which definitely cannot be duplicated. I'm just that your tone of voice and when you talk, can someone duplicate it? They can't do it, but they will have their strengths. So it's their package. Your package is what you are. So I'm saying, and this is the way I am trying, will want the students or young people who want to go take a matter. This will help mediation also. Come to you only when you are required, and otherwise they are doing things. So your time, you can actually divide into so many more mediations. Otherwise, if you are going through the same meetings and certain things which you are not required for, there might be certain things that you can be briefed on in a small session with these people. So I think that's where we should take it forward, because you have, look, I feel we have limited people at that, those kind of people with that experience, with that mediator mindset. I'm very selective about whom I think that should go there. So those people have limited time. So why should they be spending so much time on a meeting which actually they were not required for, maybe? So that's the way we should take it forward, and not having these people come in to just listen to you and to think. They should actually be, it's a hands-on. This is a hands-on process.
No, absolutely.
You
Yeah,
people, I'm sure in your trainings and all do mock mediations. I'm saying this will be actual mediation they'll do.
yeah,
So that's totally different. They'll actually be sitting
completely.
there as mediators.
Yes, yes,
So, and what other thing that we do is the intelligence of the participants, I think we underestimate. It is
exactly.
their dispute. They know exactly how much they want to
Yeah,
trust you. They know that.
exactly. Yeah, they know, they know.
And as long as, again, this comes from how they perceive the process. If
So
someone is
that's
telling them you are stuck in it because the court has told us you have to do this,
correct.
I don't know what is being
Correct,
communicated to
correct.
them. But if they know, they can walk out at any point of time.
Yes.
So why it looks so personal to them. A dispute is such a personal thing.
Such a personal thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to say that they are not intelligent
yeah,
enough
yeah.
to know what to say to you, and you can in some way coerce some information from them, we'll be fooling ourselves and them.
No,
It's not
it's
going to happen.
that's exactly the point. No, mediation is all about respect. See, that is where I feel that, where it differs conceptually from other dispute resolution mechanisms is it respects the individual.
You've picked up a
Respect
wrong word, Jawad. You picked up a very wrong word with me. I'm now going to be telling you this.
what?
You people are in some way affecting the respect of mediators in the court system, because I will give you this example of a very senior mediator in Africa, in Nigeria. He says, look, we are living in a materialistic world. Everything is gauged on how much this guy is getting, how much money he has, on those things. He said, I walk into a multi-door courthouse as a mediator in Nigeria. I'm not respected because about the money I'm getting. The participants say this is as much as my clerk gets. Those are
Correct.
the kind of words he's heard.
Correct.
So we are actually affecting the respect of mediators. And I'm saying I'm not with a black flag outside the courts, which you have to do, but let's not do that to mediators. Their respect is going down
That is
because
the
of it.
point, no, Vikram. That is what I'm exactly saying. See, the problem today is, like, if you take my own friends, people who completed law with me, the amount of money that they are making today, I'm not even making a small fraction of it. Okay, not even a small fraction of that money. Okay, now see, that is one part of it. Okay, I'm not talking. Yeah, the respect for the mediator. That's one part of it. But as a mediator, am I respecting the people before me, the participants in my mediation? Am I respecting them? Am I respecting the fact that they are mature adults who are capable of understanding what is good for them and deciding for themselves, right? That is where my challenge comes. Now, what happens, that is where I said mediation is conceptually different from litigation, because litigation robs the party people of their identity. The moment you walk into a lawyer's office, you become a client. The moment you go to the court, you're a plaintiff or a petitioner or a defendant or a respondent. Where are you? When you get into the witness box, your prosecution or plaintiff witness 1, your plaintiff witness 2, or defendant witness 1 or 2. Where is your individuality?
But
Okay, where is the fact that you as a person are deeply affected by this? And it is not just that some legal formula can be applied to your conflict. And somebody sitting over there, just because the state has designated him as a judge, tells you what is right and what is wrong.
Jawad, you have to get me in at this point, because I'm telling you, this is now happening in mediations also. Lawyers are taking it up in a manner where the parties, now here I'm saying parties, because they've come through that, they don't have a role to play. They
Yeah.
are put at the back, and the lawyer is the one who's up front and in a
Yes.
way wanting to control the process. So same thing is coming here.
Yeah.
And because of the court system. And the other thing I was interestingly, when you said about the making the money, I was just thinking, people are going to think mediation is the poor man's dispute resolution. Something like that. So I think this is something, again, it's all going to be perception. And if you have to take it forward, these are things which will come in the way.
Yes.
All these things will come in the way, because like I said, it's not natural the way it's. People might say yes, people are getting to know about mediation, but that's not the natural way what mediation should happen. And I am saying you should be the one out there saying, for the moment, let us stop doing mediation in the court system up till we are not valued. Because look, it's a passion for you. You want to help these people. So it comes from that. It's not a matter, no, but at the end of the day, how do they take back what do they perceive? They don't value mediation or the mediator, which is what I've been saying through a year. Now it's been what, 2 years I've been saying this, that they are not valuing the mediator, because everything today is valued on the basis of the money that you pay, maybe. And here, this is not, again, this word, I've discussed this, free and pro bono. Look, this is free. Those people can afford it. The lawyer that is sitting with you is being paid huge amounts of money. I think people don't know that.
Exactly.
And if you look at the invoices that are raised by lawyers who are representing people in a mediation in the court system where the mediator is getting nothing, you'll be very surprised.
Yeah.
So they can afford it. Why are you doing this to mediation? I really, pro bono, people can't afford the
And
mediator.
it's deliberate, Vikram, because
Yeah.
when you appoint Jawad as a mediator, you don't bother to tell. See, I'll give you an example. Okay, our own rules, our Madras High Court rules of mediation. They say that there are three different situations. Like the first situation is where the court simply refers parties to the mediation. The file goes to the mediation center. The mediator, the center follows the roster system, and whoever the case has to be allotted to, the court, the center allots. Now, even there, I feel that you should fix a fee for the mediator, which is not done. You are paid up, like for example, in our High Court, a paltry honorarium of 7,500 if you settle, 2,500 if you don't settle.
Please
Okay,
convert it into, we have to convert it into dollars, because I'm just saying it goes out. Not even $100.
Not even
Or
$100.
if you settle, and maybe about $25 if you don't settle.
Don't settle.
For the entire thing, it can be how many sessions. Jawad, you have to tell people this.
How much quality time you have spent, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Number two is where the court feels that this matter should be referred to Vikram or Jawad or Uma or whoever. Now, the rule says that when the court refers it to a named mediator, you have to fix the fee for that, which the court doesn't do. But on the other hand, when it appoints a retired judge who's not even trained as a mediator, either they fix the fee or give the liberty to the mediator to decide what fee they should fix. The order mentions that. Okay. The third aspect is if parties, because sometimes lawyers know that, okay, this person will be a good enough mediator for this matter, and both agree that, okay, please appoint so and so as a mediator. Now, that is where the rules say that parties and the mediator can agree upon the fees. Now, this liberty is also not given. Okay, the rules say that. I have sent representations, but they're just sitting on it. Nothing is being done. Now, why is this discrimination happening is my question. When you appoint your own retired brethren, you fix a phenomenal amount of fee. Why do you treat lawyer mediators in such a discriminatory manner?
Because you have agreed to be treated like that. That's where the problem is. I'm telling you, this is, you have to change it. That's why you are where the poster boy comes in. You have to change that thing. Because look, I'm telling you, finally, this is affecting mediation itself, because look, if you go to any product, forget the fact of mediation. If it is doled out as free, this content that goes out for free will not be valued as much as if I say Ken Cloke is coming, pay $100. People will pay $100 to even attend his session. They're paying more than that in some places. So I think we have to, I don't know whether I have to change my thing of doing it, but this aspect definitely has to be, I think people have to.
No, see that, let me tell you this. Okay, now this court annexed mediation has been very useful in terms of creating a certain level of awareness. Okay.
Which I dispute.
Past decade and a half.
Which I'm disputing.
No, which you're disputing.
What mediation?
No, I'll come to that. I'll come to that. Maybe we are on the same page, Vikram. I'm just telling you that it has helped in creating that awareness, and the courts have done quite a lot of work on this, particularly the Supreme Court, the Mediation Conciliation Project Committee. But I have my own issues on that, but that's a different matter. But let me not deny the fact that it has contributed tremendously to creating that awareness, at least. But what I'm now saying is that allow private mediation to flourish. Don't interfere there. Okay, keep your hands off that. Let it flourish. Let it blossom on its own. Let it grow on its own. Okay, yes, there has to be some kind of regulation, but that's not for the courts to do it. Okay, let the law, you're coming out with the mediation law, let the law deal with that. Okay, what kind of credentials should be there? Who can be a mediator? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, you cannot be too restrictive also there. You have to have a more a liberal understanding of who a mediator can be, because what happens in community mediations? What if the community wants a particular important individual from that community to be, and if he doesn't fulfill the criteria, what happens there? Can the mediation not take place? These are all issues, you know. What I'm saying is, when you're coming out with the law, be prepared to deal with all these things. But at the same time, you have commercial mediations, you have family mediations, where you need to have some kind of, a little bit of regulation, not too much of regulation. Too much of regulation destroys the creativity or the kind of the development.
No, despite what you said, I'm telling you this, I've spoken so much about it. I've also stopped again, it's banging head against the brick wall. But I'm saying the people who would actually draft those things, do they even understand the process? Do they even know? First of all, one is the process itself. What is actually happening at the ground, on the ground? You never even know all that. Because for me, I've been saying this, and I'm saying it for everyone, just in India, everywhere. First of all, the law in India on mediation is the best law today what we have, and it doesn't need to be tampered with, except to the fact that if you want to make that settlement agreement directly enforceable and not use the word as as good as a consent award, and then make it as good as a court decree, I'm okay with that. They let it go directly and become as good as a court decree. And if that will maybe help in certain ways, if in terms of how, I won't get into those aspects, but I'm saying today that law, because ultimately, if you have to look at it, you also, I know that you've of course gone through the draft and you've spoken about it, but for a moment I'm just saying, look at it from the perspective of one person sitting in a village. Don't look for anyone else. That person today is in some way, I think, I keep saying, denied justice. That's what they've been denied. And for us to be able to empower them enough, this is empowerment. I'm telling you, today our law on mediation, which is called conciliation and rightly called conciliation, which I've gone into earlier, if you can empower that person to actually be able to get a court decree sitting in his village without any restrictions, without whom they can appoint, because I'll tell you what this is coming down to. I, as a state, will get into whom you sit with to resolve your dispute. Can I, or should I even do that? Can I get into your house and whom are you sitting with? You have to tell me. I will tell you whether you can sit with this person or not. Is it even feasible and practical to even say that? Because this is someone you trust. I will tell you whom you can trust. And this is why I had that whole symposium on colonization, decolonization, because this is colonization of mediation. The other thing of colonization of mediation is the accreditations, qualifications you will say for a mediator. What you're going to tell people is, this person that you trust and actually has been functioning as a mediator is low class. The person that I will certify and accredit, or whatever I will do with that list I will make, these are mediators. So the respect for someone who actually is performing on the ground, you want to diminish and bring in this person whom you feel. On what basis are you feeling this? What basis do you know that what those individuals want? It's such a unique kind of a situation being created. Two unique people, I'm saying only two, with a multi-party, it can be multi-participant, but even just two people are unique people. That mediator comes in as a unique person. This will might not be duplicated ever again. The disputes, the people and the mediator won't have. So to say, I know who will be the best person to sit here, you are actually, I don't know, either you are confused or you don't understand, maybe, but don't draft legislation based on these things, because the Supreme Court tells you should draft a legend. Supreme Court knows nothing about mediation, but the judges, yes. I keep saying, if someone is appointed, a judge is appointed, perfectly all right. You said not trained. I said no training required. Does the judge have the mediator mindset or not? That's all you have to look for anyone. That's it. And once the judge has it, I'm sure they're good judges. I mean, I don't know who those judges are, because I have nothing to do with the court system, but I'm sure they're good judges with that mediator mindset. And like I see in that ambassador mediation group, that there are mediators who have been made judges.
Yeah.
So definitely a person with a mediator mindset is sitting there.
Yeah.
So there are people like that. So they are appointed, no issue. But like you said, on the fees part of it, I'm not even getting into. If I was on your side, I would be out there telling everyone, we are not going to do this. We are demeaning mediation, not just for yourself. You're demeaning mediation. And that is where the long-term thing, that awareness being created. But what are you creating awareness of? Have you found out what is happening in those mediation rooms? Have you asked those people who came out of it? What was the process? What they are saying about the process? One, they will say the mediator decided. Definitely not what you want them to take back. The other thing could be, we were actually, I mean, okay, they not was not decided, but in a way we were not given an option. Maybe I don't know how it works. The other, I think the biggest thing I feel is that in that process, I mean, I look at that process as obviously party self-determination, but the first part is the party might be self-determining the settlement, but was that settlement done by telling them it will take you so much time, it will cost you so much, so you settle? So it is still party self-determination to the extent of signing it, but it is not what the party wanted for sure. And here we can talk about positions and rights.
There I feel, Vikram, see, the purpose of mediation is to, that is where I said that, I gave you the example of the six blind men, where people, participants have a perspective of the conflict. And I feel that it is the mediator's job to help them to look at different perspectives without telling them. That's why I gave you examples of, am I going to tell them that, look, the court is not going to give you this and you're wrong, absolutely. Or am I going to tell them that, how do you think the court is going to look at it? Have you thought about it? Have you discussed? Would you like to find out? Now there, I'm putting them on that thought process. Okay, if I don't do that, how are they going to change them?
No. I'm saying not that. What I'm saying is on the cost and the time, because the judiciary is inefficient. These people are settling this.
Right.
Actually, that is not really what they wanted. So they won't go back with a good experience. They said we settled because it would have cost us so much. We've taken some time.
On the legislation itself, I was reading the draft Uniform Mediation Act of the US, okay, which was placed in 1998. Do you know how many sections are there in that?
They tell me how many.
Only 5 sections.
Perfect. That's what
talks about definitions. Section 2 talks about confidentiality, protection against compelled disclosure, waiver, etc. It talks about another form of confidentiality, prohibition against disclosure by a mediator. This was required simply because, the different states in the US had different concepts of confidentiality.
Absolutely.
So to have a uniform understanding of what confidentiality means. Section 4 talks about quality of mediation. Section 5 talks about enforcement of agreements to mediated agreements.
Perfect.
That's all. That's all.
But Jawad, at the same time, you are going to give us that's the conciliation part of it. Also, you should refer to and say how good that is also. And it gives you even better things there. What are the things, criteria that happens and all that? Very nicely done.
So, no, what I'm saying is, draftsmanship again is an issue. You put somebody on the job who just reads about mediation from certain places, or consults a few people who may not have an idea of what mediation is all about, or may have a distorted idea of it, or may not have the correct idea of it, and you prepare a draft. Okay, now this is where the challenge comes, because our laws are framed by people who have absolutely no understanding of the subject matter.
That's exactly what I mean.
For example,
no, when Jawad, we had that discussion on the mediation bill, I was saying, and today also I say, I did not want to give sanctity to the draft because to even talk about it and even dissect any of the sections, we are giving it sanctity. It should be disregarded. I keep saying today also, come back, tell us, starting point always should be, what do you have? Let's look at it. Where are the issues in this that can come up? And let's see, because look, the entire world, they have representatives from the entire world who sit in the ancestral, and a model law is taken, and we picked up the conciliation rules of 1980. When this 1996, we got the conciliation in the Arbitration Conciliation Act. So their minds from around the world, you have already got those inputs. You're benefiting from those input. Yes. At least start with that. They have a model mediation, the one that they have come out with, that the rules also in part of that. So they've already have that. look at it and then say, look, these are the issues that can come up by people who understand the process, not by someone who's looking at it from a totally different litigation and arbitration angle. So I think the base itself starts off in the wrong way. It starts off with, let us now look at things which we have to start reinvent the wheel kind of thing.
Correct, correct.
So I think this you need to put. These are two things, Jawad, please. You are the poster boy of mediation. One, that the mediators not be demeaned and mediation not be demeaned and disrespected in the court system. And two, let us look at a legislation which exists, and I see no issue with that. These are two things, Jawad, you have to do this. But one thing that you haven't, I mean, look, one word that is a term that has come up in this thing also, and we've spoken about the authentic self, and how their authentic self, bringing that, and by itself, how does that create the trust which then goes through the process. I think that part you have to touch on, because I don't want that to be missed out on.
No, you're talking about the trust that is developed in the course
which comes in from the authentic self. I'll tell you why the authentic self came up, because of everyone keeps talking about that, to actually for people to perceive you as neutral. I mean, as people use that. So if you perceive you to be perceived as neutral, you have to do certain things. You have to develop trust, and you have to, maybe there's some active role being played on an angle, which according to me, if you start questioning every action of yours, every gesture of yours, how much I spoke to this person, how I spoke to this hug that you spoke about, whether I should hug this person, so all those things, because you're not being yourself at that moment, you actually feel this. And if you are restraining yourself, how does that affect that process itself? Because if you're not your authentic self, then does trust develop? So this is just a discussion. I mean, whether you would do it or not, which you feel that, look, you have your theoretical aspect of it, and look, these are things that need to be done. Are you even thinking about it? Because one is what you do in your trainings, and one is when you are practicing. So while you're practicing, according to me, it must be and should be flowing. If you are not thinking about the theory part of it, it's flowing the way it has to. So in that kind of situation, being your authentic self, are you first of all being your authentic self when you have to, in some way, that perception of neutrality, of perception of impartiality to be created? For that, are you in some way affecting the process because you are not being yourself? Something on those kind of lines.
Well, actually, that's something very huge, Vikram. It's quite very complicated, and I'll just tell you my perspective of that. I may be right, I may be wrong. How do you approach a mediation? What kind of mindset do you take with you to mediation? Basically, I feel to be a mediator, I think you need to love people. Okay, and number one, love them. And understand that we all have problems, okay? And they have this particular problem for which they have approached me. And my job is to just help them to understand where they are coming from and what is the way forward, okay? If I'm able to, help them in that conversation and help them to find their own solutions, that's fine. So I have this mantra in my mind that mediation is a healing process. And I believe that there cannot be, insofar as our personal issues are concerned, our problems, our conflicts are concerned, whether they're internal or whether they are intra within yourself or with other people, nothing helps like good listening. Okay. So I believe that, listening to somebody is very critical. It's very, very crucial.
But can I
listening
come in?
Without
1 second, 5 seconds. Listening, one is words, listening to the heart, listening to the soul, because my heart, soul, spirituality have to fit in somewhere.
Yeah. See, now what kind of listening you do is ultimately, how the conversation goes and how you're actually able to hold that conversation. Because are you really listening? A whole lot of things matter in that. Okay, how starting from your facial expression to the kind of responses you give as you're listening, to how you feel about what you're listening, everything is involved in that. Okay. Now, there is no right way or wrong way of doing it. All I can say is that if you are able to listen without judging, without allowing your own perceptions or beliefs or biases to come in the way, I think that's good enough, which is a very tough call, actually, to me. It's very difficult to do that. It's not easy. And it comes with training your mind. Okay. With training your mind to not really decide. So one of the ways that can perhaps help us is because when we are listening, we form our own assumptions, right? We come to our own conclusions. We think that this is what the party means. What I feel is that it helps to test your assumptions. Ask the questions. Have I understood you correctly? Is this how you felt about this? Okay, those questions may help you to clarify those assumptions. Can you explain that a little more? Now, these are all, this comes in that. It is an integral part of what we call in training as active listening. Okay, so most important part is listening and understanding what exactly. And listening and understanding from that person's point of view, how they are looking at that. Without getting that adulterated with my own assumptions, with my own beliefs or biases or prejudices or whatever I may be carrying out, which is a part of myself. So as long as I'm able to be conscious of where my mind is going, and if I'm able to stop that from going there and just paying my undivided attention to what they are saying, that can have a very cathartic effect on the people. And nothing can be a better way to build trust than simply listening. So that is, I think, one of the most basic requirements of being a good mediator. If you're not a good listener, if you have a view about everything and you feel compelled to express that view, which we lawyers are trained to do, right? You're not a good mediator.
Because the connection I'm making is that once you said that you're listening, and you're listening from the heart and listening to the heart, and based on that, there is a certain emotion which obviously you're a human being, because the machine part of it we talk about separately, but you're a human being. There will be some emotion, there will be some reaction, you want to react, and that's where the hug kind of thing came in. Because some people have said, so we'll say that no, you will not to do that, because that will in some way, in the perception of neutrality, will be something which will come up. And I am of course on the other side, and I'm saying that you are not being your authentic self. And if you're not the authentic self, it be that perception will go against the process. But both the things have to go hand in hand.
That is where I feel that omnipartiality is a better way of defining.
Oh, yeah, actually, what we did not do was, Jawad, we did not look at the definition of neutrality. Was dictionary meaning normally you start with?
That is why I was very careful to tell you that I don't want to define neutrality. It is
no, there's a dictionary meaning. I'm saying there is a dictionary meaning. So whenever, look, for the user, look, when I say, why I say this, because some people actually, like Laila was saying, that I disclose, I disclose, I say that I will be neutral. So if you are saying that, the user has to have some basis on looking at it. So they will go to the dictionary meaning. Because I keep saying, obviously, I keep saying that why are we confusing the user with words which we are debating? Forget the user looking at. But let's just put it up. I want to put it up just because, I mean, it's a word which definitely people will go out and search. I'm not going to, if they're not going to, we can't stop them for looking at dictionary meaning, because that's how normally people start on words. So let's just look at it. I mean, let's just look at what a person will read. A user will read when you say I'm neutral, or there is neutrality. So this, the state of not supporting or helping either side. And like you said omnipartiality and things like that. So here impartiality will be used. So how are we going to be able to take the process forward when we started with a word which we want to understand differently, and the dictionary meaning is different? So this you have to address. And of course, the second part, absence of decided views expressed, both the things you have to address. But at the same time, Jawad, look, in terms of the time factor, you know me, I like these discussions and they can go on as long. At any point of time, you don't have to be polite. You can say, Vikram, thank you very much. I've had enough of you and I've had enough of the session and I have something to do. Unlike you, I have something to do. So I have to go. So at any point of time, you can do that. You're not going to be rude. You'll be absolutely right if you do that, because I like these discussions and I want them to be out there, but totally I will leave that to you. So these two aspects, if you, I mean, fact that you have time, these two aspects I want you to touch on, because we are using a word which is you for the user. For the user, for us within ourselves, we can keep debating. But once we use the word for the user, they will have to have some definition in front of them. They will look at this definition and how will they perceive the process? And is that the way you want them to perceive the process? So please.
See, let me tell you that how I do it.